Chosen one, your abundant future starts now. Identity changing. When it is said that your abundant future starts now and that your identity is changing, it does not mean that everything outside you suddenly transforms in a single moment. It means that something far more powerful is shifting first. The way you see yourself, the way you relate to possibility, and the way you interpret what you deserve and what you are capable of sustaining. Abundance does not begin with money, opportunity, or recognition. It begins with self-concept. The moment your identity expands, your choices begin to change, your boundaries adjust, and your expectations of yourself rise. This is not dramatic on the surface, but it is profound in its long-term effect. Stay with this message until the very end, because each layer builds on the one before it, and understanding deepens as you move through it. And write your warmest wishes in the comments, and include the number 144 as a conscious act of intention and energetic focus. This moment reflects a chapter where belief begins to align with behavior, where awareness starts shaping momentum, and where inner readiness prepares you for outer growth. This is the only place where wishes are mentioned, because from here forward, the focus moves fully into identity, responsibility, and sustainable expansion. Now, chosen one, press the hype button, like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's start. Identity is the quiet filter through which you interpret every experience. It shapes what you pursue, what you tolerate, and what you believe is realistic for your life. If your identity has been built around survival, struggle, or limitation, even opportunities can feel threatening or undeserved. When identity begins to shift toward stability, capability, and self-trust, abundance becomes easier to receive and maintain, not because the world suddenly changes, but because you interact with it differently. An identity shift often begins subtly. You may notice that you speak to yourself with more respect. You no longer accept internal narratives that frame you as powerless or unlucky. You start expecting your efforts to matter. This expectation influences how consistently you show up, how carefully you plan, and how you respond when challenges arise. Another early sign of identity change is how you respond to setbacks. Instead of seeing them as confirmation that you are not meant to succeed, you treat them as part of learning and adjustment. This resilience protects momentum and prevents temporary difficulty from becoming permanent discouragement. You may also notice that your standards begin to rise. You are less willing to remain in environments, habits, or relationships that drain your energy or limit your growth. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. As your sense of worth stabilizes, you naturally move toward what supports your well-being and long-term development. Abundance is not only about acquiring more, it is also about sustaining what you build. An abundant identity includes emotional regulation, patience, and consistency. These qualities protect progress from being undone by impulsive decisions or emotional overwhelm. You may find that your thinking becomes more future-oriented. You consider how today's choices affect tomorrow's stability. You invest in skills, habits, and systems that support long-term growth, rather than chasing short-term relief or validation. Another shift is how you relate to effort. You no longer see effort as punishment or proof of struggle. You see it as investment. This perspective reduces resistance and increases persistence. You may also notice improved emotional clarity. You can identify what you feel without being consumed by it. This emotional intelligence supports better decision-making and healthier relationships, both of which are essential for sustainable abundance. As identity changes, your relationship with time often changes too. You become more patient with process. You stop expecting instant transformation. You trust compounding progress. This patience protects you from frustration and burnout. You may also notice that your attention becomes more intentional. You reduce exposure to influences that reinforce fear or scarcity. You seek information, conversations, and environments that support growth and possibility. Attention shapes mindset, and mindset shapes behavior. Another sign of identity expansion is increased self-trust. You rely more on your own judgment and lived experience. You still value guidance, but you no longer outsource your sense of direction. This autonomy strengthens confidence and reduces indecision. You may also experience a shift in how you define success. Success becomes less about external comparison and more about alignment with your values, consistency of effort, and stability of well-being. This internal definition supports lasting satisfaction. Abundance also requires the ability to receive. As identity shifts, you may notice that you are more comfortable accepting support, opportunity, and recognition without guilt or suspicion. You no longer feel the need to reject good things to stay familiar with struggle. You may also notice that your relationship with risk changes. You are willing to take thoughtful risks that align with growth, rather than avoiding change out of fear. This courage supports progress while still honoring discernment. Another important development is how you handle responsibility. You accept it without feeling crushed by it. You manage what is yours to manage and release what is not. This balance prevents overwhelm and supports steady advancement. You may also notice that your environment begins to reflect your internal shift. You organize your space, your schedule, and your priorities in ways that support focus and recovery. External order reinforces internal clarity. As identity stabilizes, your communication may also change. You express needs more clearly. You set boundaries more confidently. You stop minimizing your expectations for yourself and others. This clarity strengthens relationships and collaboration. You may also experience increased tolerance for growth discomfort. You understand that expansion often feels unfamiliar before it feels comfortable. You remain present instead of retreating into old habits when things stretch you. Another sign is how you handle comparison. You become less reactive to others' achievements. You focus on your own trajectory. This independence protects motivation and reduces unnecessary pressure. Abundance also includes emotional safety. As your identity strengthens, you create internal and external conditions that support calm, reflection, and recovery. You protect your nervous system because you understand that chronic stress undermines clarity and performance. You may also notice that your goals become more aligned with who you are becoming rather than who you were trying to be. This alignment reduces inner conflict and increases follow-through. As your identity changes, your tolerance for self-sabotage decreases. Patterns that once felt familiar now feel uncomfortable. You interrupt them sooner. This self-interruption preserves progress and builds self-trust. Another quiet shift is how you experience gratitude. Gratitude becomes less performative and more grounded. You appreciate stability, growth, and opportunity without needing dramatic circumstances. This grounded appreciation supports emotional balance. You may also notice that your planning becomes more realistic and strategic. You break goals into steps. You consider resources and timing. This structure increases the likelihood of sustainable success. Abundance is not about constant positivity. It is about realistic optimism paired with disciplined action. As identity changes, you hold hope without ignoring responsibility. This balance strengthens outcomes. You may also experience increased curiosity. You explore learning opportunities new skills, and different perspectives. Curiosity supports adaptability and innovation, both of which are essential for long-term growth. Another important element is self-respect. You honor your commitments to yourself. You protect your energy. You stop negotiating with habits that undermine your goals. This respect reinforces identity change. As your internal narrative evolves, you may notice that you speak about your future with more confidence and less doubt. This language influences expectation, and expectation influences behavior. You may also find that your capacity for patience with others increases. You understand that everyone is navigating their own growth. This compassion supports healthier relationships and reduces conflict. Abundance also requires flexibility. As identity shifts, you become more adaptable when plans change. You adjust rather than collapse. This resilience preserves momentum. You may also notice that your sense of purpose becomes clearer but less dramatic. You focus on daily alignment rather than distant fantasies. This grounded purpose supports consistency. Another shift is how you experience rest. Rest becomes strategic rather than escapist. You recover intentionally to support performance and clarity. This balance protects sustainability. As identity changes, you may also experience moments of discomfort as old beliefs fall away. This discomfort is not regression. It is recalibration. Growth often feels unstable before it feels secure. You may also notice that your attention to detail improves. You care about quality, not just speed. This attention strengthens the value of what you build. Abundance is not only material. It includes emotional stability, mental clarity, supportive relationships, and meaningful contribution. Identity change expands what you consider valuable. You may also experience increased accountability. You take ownership of choices and outcomes without harsh self-judgment. This accountability strengthens growth. As your identity aligns with abundance, you begin acting in ways that support it consistently. Small decisions compound. Habits reinforce belief. Belief reinforces action. This is why it is said that your abundant future starts now. Not because everything outside you shifts instantly, but because the internal foundation that supports abundance is becoming stable. As this first part settles, understand this clearly. The most powerful transformation is not what happens to your circumstances, but what happens to your sense of self. When identity expands, behavior follows. When behavior aligns, outcomes begin to change. Abundance grows where responsibility, self-trust, and consistency meet. What you are stepping into is not a moment, but a trajectory shaped by who you are becoming, starting now. As this identity shift continues to take root, you may begin to notice that your relationship with possibility feels different. Possibility no longer feels like distant fantasy or something meant for other people. It begins to feel accessible, practical, and connected to your daily actions. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and start working with what is available, trusting that momentum grows through engagement, not hesitation. You may also notice that your internal dialogue becomes more encouraging and less dismissive. Instead of questioning whether you are capable, you focus on how you can improve. This shift from self-doubt to self-development changes how you approach challenges. Problems become invitations to refine skill rather than signals to retreat. Another important sign of identity change is how you handle responsibility when opportunities appear. You do not shrink away from increased expectations. You organize yourself, learn what is required, and adjust routines to support new demands. This adaptability allows growth without chaos. You may also notice that your relationship with discipline becomes healthier. Discipline stops feeling like restriction and starts feeling like self-support. You recognize that structure protects your energy and focus, making abundance easier to build and maintain. As your self-concept stabilizes, you may feel less pulled toward distractions that once provided escape. Excessive scrolling, impulsive spending, or constant entertainment lose some of their appeal. You prefer activities that strengthen your future rather than numb your present. Another shift is how you experience confidence. Confidence becomes quieter and more consistent. You trust your ability to handle complexity even when outcomes are uncertain. This grounded confidence allows you to move forward without needing constant reassurance. You may also notice improved emotional boundaries. You stop absorbing the moods, fears, and expectations of others as easily. You care, but you do not carry what is not yours. This emotional independence protects clarity and preserves energy for meaningful goals. As identity aligns with abundance, your thinking becomes more solution-oriented. You naturally look for ways to improve systems, increase efficiency, and reduce unnecessary stress. This practical creativity supports sustainable growth rather than impulsive leaps. You may also notice that your tolerance for stagnation decreases. You are no longer comfortable staying in situations that offer no learning or development. You seek environments that challenge and expand you in healthy ways. Another important development is how you relate to patience. You accept that worthwhile outcomes take time. You remain committed even when progress is not immediately visible. This long-term perspective protects motivation and prevents discouragement. You may also find that your sense of worth becomes less conditional. You do not base your value solely on performance or productivity. This unconditional self-respect allows you to pursue growth without fear of failure defining you. As identity strengthens, your communication may become more assertive and clear. You express expectations, negotiate needs, and advocate for yourself without excessive guilt. This clarity improves collaboration and opens doors that once felt inaccessible. You may also notice increased comfort with learning curves. You allow yourself to be a beginner when entering new territory. This openness accelerates skill development and reduces fear of judgment. Another shift is how you experience setbacks. You recover faster. You extract lessons and adjust rather than dwelling on disappointment. This resilience keeps progress moving forward even when plans change. You may also notice that your planning becomes more intentional. You set realistic goals, create timelines, and track progress. This organization reduces overwhelm and increases consistency. As identity evolves, your relationship with money, work, and stability may also shift. You think more strategically about income, expenses, and long-term security. You make choices that support sustainability rather than short-term comfort. You may also find that your creativity becomes more focused. Ideas are not just exciting, they are actionable. You think about implementation, resources, and timing. This practical creativity increases effectiveness. Another sign of abundance-oriented identity is increased gratitude for progress rather than only outcomes. You recognize effort, learning, and consistency as valuable achievements. This appreciation reinforces motivation. You may also notice improved stress management. You recognize when pressure is building and intervene early through rest, organization, or boundary setting. This prevention protects health and productivity. As your sense of identity aligns with growth, you may also experience increased curiosity about how systems work. Finances, career paths, skill development, or emotional regulation. This curiosity supports informed decision-making. You may also find that your sense of purpose becomes more grounded in contribution rather than recognition. You care about building something that lasts, not just being seen. This shift supports long-term fulfillment. Another development is how you handle comparison. You become less reactive to others' success. You focus on your own improvement and timeline. This independence strengthens confidence. You may also notice that your willingness to invest in yourself increases. You invest time in learning, health, and skill development without guilt. This self-investment compounds into future stability. As identity changes, your tolerance for chaos decreases. You organize finances, schedules, and commitments more carefully. This order supports clarity and reduces anxiety. You may also experience increased consistency in habits. You follow through even when enthusiasm fades. This reliability builds self-trust and long-term results. Another shift is how you experience motivation. Motivation becomes less emotional and more commitment-based. You act because it aligns with who you are becoming, not because you feel inspired in the moment. You may also notice that your decision-making becomes more values-driven. You choose options that align with long-term well-being rather than short-term approval. This alignment strengthens integrity. As your abundant identity stabilizes, you may also feel more comfortable receiving recognition or opportunity without self-sabotage. You accept growth as something you are capable of sustaining. You may also find that your internal narrative becomes more optimistic, but still realistic. You expect improvement, but you remain willing to work for it. This balanced mindset supports steady progress. Another important change is how you handle uncertainty. You remain proactive even when outcomes are unclear. You trust your ability to adjust and learn as needed. This adaptability supports forward movement. You may also notice that your sense of personal agency strengthens. You see yourself as an active participant in shaping your future rather than a passive observer of circumstances. As this second part settles, understand this. Abundance does not arrive only when circumstances change. It begins when identity changes. When you start thinking, choosing, and responding like someone who expects growth and stability, your behavior naturally aligns with those expectations. This alignment is what opens pathways, strengthens consistency, and allows opportunity to be recognized and sustained. What is changing, it is not just what you hope for, but who you are becoming. And that is what makes the future you are building fundamentally different from the past you are leaving behind. As this identity continues to strengthen, you may begin to notice that your relationship with challenge becomes more cooperative instead of resistant. Challenges no longer feel like personal attacks on your worth or signs that you are failing. They feel like signals pointing to what still needs development. This shift transforms frustration into information. Instead of asking why something is happening to you, you begin asking what this moment is teaching you about your next level of growth. You may also notice that your emotional reactions to uncertainty become less intense. You still care about outcomes, but you are not paralyzed by not knowing. You are able to hold possibility without immediately needing guarantees. This emotional flexibility allows you to stay engaged and productive even when the future is still forming. Another important change is how you experience effort. Effort no longer feels like evidence of struggle. It feels like participation in your own evolution. You recognize that skill, stability, and confidence are built through repetition and refinement. This understanding removes much of the internal resistance that once made progress feel exhausting. You may also notice that your standards for yourself become clearer but kinder. You expect more from yourself in terms of consistency and responsibility, yet you respond to mistakes with correction rather than condemnation. This balanced self-discipline strengthens growth while protecting self-esteem. As identity aligns with abundance, you may find that your tolerance for chaos continues to decrease. Disorganized finances, unclear plans, and emotional instability feel more uncomfortable than they once did. You are drawn to systems, routines, and environments that support focus and calm. This desire for order is not about control. It is about sustainability. You may also notice that your thinking becomes more strategic. You plan ahead, anticipate obstacles, and prepare resources. You no longer rely on last-minute effort or luck. This preparedness increases confidence and reduces unnecessary stress. Another sign of identity change is how you approach collaboration. You communicate expectations more clearly. You contribute responsibly. You respect both your own boundaries and those of others. This maturity improves teamwork and opens doors to opportunities that require reliability. You may also find that your patience with learning curves deepens. You accept that mastery takes time. You remain committed, even when progress feels slow. This patience protects motivation and prevents abandonment of goals during difficult phases. As your sense of abundance strengthens, you may also experience a shift in how you relate to money and resources. You become more thoughtful about spending, saving, and investing. You consider long-term stability rather than only immediate comfort. This financial mindfulness supports security and future growth. You may also notice increased confidence in expressing ideas and taking initiative. You no longer wait for perfect certainty before acting. You trust that you can adjust as you go. This willingness to engage accelerates development and visibility. Another important development is how you manage your attention. You become more aware of how quickly distraction can drain energy and focus. You protect periods of deep work and meaningful rest. This attention management strengthens productivity and emotional balance. You may also notice that your emotional attachment to specific outcomes softens. You remain committed to your goals, but you are flexible about how success arrives. This adaptability reduces anxiety and increases creativity. As identity evolves, you may also experience increased interest in personal growth beyond external success. You invest in emotional intelligence, communication skills, and self-awareness. These internal skills improve every area of life and support long-term abundance. You may also notice that your relationship with feedback becomes more constructive. You seek information that helps you improve, rather than only validation that protects comfort. This growth-oriented mindset accelerates learning. Another shift is how you handle comparison. You stop measuring yourself primarily against others. You track your own progress, habits, and consistency. This self-referenced evaluation strengthens confidence and reduces pressure. You may also find that your recovery from stress improves. You return to baseline faster after difficult days. You use rest, movement, and reflection intentionally. This resilience protects health and productivity. As identity aligns with growth, you may also experience increased willingness to release what no longer fits. Old habits, outdated goals, or misaligned relationships become easier to let go of. This release creates space for new opportunities. You may also notice that your sense of purpose becomes less tied to proving yourself and more connected to building something meaningful. This shift reduces performance anxiety and increases fulfillment. Another development is how you handle responsibility for your own emotions. You stop expecting others or circumstances to regulate how you feel. You use skills and strategies to stabilize yourself. This emotional responsibility strengthens independence and confidence. You may also find that your tolerance for short-term discomfort in service of long-term benefit increases. You are willing to delay gratification, practice difficult skills, and invest effort where it matters most. This patience compounds into lasting results. As your abundant identity stabilizes, your communication style may also become more confident and measured. You speak with clarity rather than defensiveness. You listen with openness rather than assumption. This communication strengthens trust and collaboration. You may also notice that your curiosity expands. You explore new perspectives, ideas, and methods that can improve your effectiveness. This curiosity keeps growth active and prevents stagnation. Another important shift is how you relate to setbacks that involve other people. Instead of internalizing rejection or disappointment, you evaluate compatibility, timing, and mutual expectations more realistically. This perspective protects self-worth and supports healthier choices. You may also experience increased confidence in making long-term plans. You set goals that extend beyond immediate needs. You think in years rather than weeks. This long-range thinking supports sustainable abundance. As identity continues to evolve, you may also feel more comfortable taking ownership of your ambitions. You no longer minimize what you want or downplay your goals. You allow yourself to aim higher while staying grounded in effort. You may also notice that your sense of inner stability grows even when external conditions fluctuate. You trust your capacity to adapt, learn, and rebuild if necessary. This confidence reduces fear of change. Another shift is how you experience gratitude. Gratitude becomes connected to progress and growth, rather than only comfort. You appreciate effort, learning, and alignment as signs of abundance already unfolding. You may also find that your resilience continues to strengthen. You remain engaged with life even when outcomes are uncertain. You adjust rather than withdraw. This persistence supports continuous improvement. As this third part settles, understand this. Identity change is not about pretending everything is perfect or believing that challenges will disappear. It is about recognizing that you now see yourself as capable of growth, responsibility, and stability. This self-concept changes how you respond to difficulty, how you invest your energy, and how you build for the future. Abundance grows where identity supports consistent, aligned action. What is unfolding now is not a temporary phase of motivation, but a deeper restructuring of how you relate to possibility, effort, and yourself. And that restructuring is what allows the future you are moving toward to be fundamentally different from the past you are leaving behind. As this identity shift continues to mature, you may begin to notice that your relationship with stability becomes more intentional. You are no longer satisfied with short bursts of improvement, followed by long periods of inconsistency. You want progress that lasts. This desire changes how you plan, how you pace yourself, and how you evaluate success. Stability becomes part of your definition of abundance, not something you postpone until later. You may also notice that your confidence in handling responsibility keeps growing. You are less intimidated by long-term commitments because you trust your ability to manage energy, adjust strategies, and learn along the way. Instead of avoiding responsibility, you approach it with structure and realism. This practical confidence allows you to build without constant fear of collapse. With this mindset, progress no longer feels fragile, but supported by systems you know how to strengthen when needed.